Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I am here to do some book reviews. Today I'm talking about 4 books that I've read recently. I'm going to share with you what they were about, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, and my rating. As always with these, timestamps will be down below as well as links to them. The books I will be talking about today, most of them are romance. First up is Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey, Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune, The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren, and The Daydreams by Laura Hankin. Without further ado, let's get into it. Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is the sequel to her book that came out earlier this year in February called Secretly Yours, and I was not the biggest fan of that one. In fact, I would say it's probably one of my least favorite Tessa Bailey books, which is a bummer because number one, the cover is so cute, the premise sounded cute, but it just really fell flat for me. So I was apprehensive going into this one. As with all Tessa Bailey books, you don't have to read them. You know, technically it is a series. I believe this one's called A Vineyard Mess. It's not pertinent that you read them in order or, you know, things like that. But, you know, it has similar characters and things like that. In the first book, we follow Hallie and Julian. And in this book, we follow Julian's sisters, Natalie. So Hallie and Julian show up. Are they really crucial to the story? Not really. So it's up to you if you want to read it or not. I didn't really enjoy it. So again, like I said, I was apprehensive. But I really enjoyed this one. This one was definitely far better than the first one. So in case you're really like, I didn't like the first one, so I don't think I'll like the second one. Trust me, I think you will like it, especially if you're a lover of the hate to love romance trope, which is my favorite trope of all time. So like I said, we follow Natalie, and Natalie has been in New York for a while. She's like kind of on Wall Street. She's really good, and she makes a bad career move, I think, with stocks, and I don't know, I'm not smart, stuff like that. And so she kind of flees back home to kind of like Napa, California, pretty much. That's in California, right? I don't know. I'm not smart, like I've said. But either way, her family owns this vineyard, the Voss Vineyard. So she kind of moves in with her mom, who she has not the best relationship with. Her brother's there. And there she meets a guy named August who is trying to open up his own winery, vineyard type of thing. And his wine sucks. They hit it off at first. You see them meet in the very first book. Like I said, it's not pertinent, but it does give them kind of a backstory. And then they just kind of have a hate relationship after that. Well, it comes to be in this book where she really needs money to start up her own type of like consulting or something type of firm with Wall Street, and she has an inheritance, but she can't get that inheritance until she reaches a certain age or she gets married, which is just, I've read so many books where it's like that. There's stipulations where you can't inherit this unless you're engaged or married. I'm like, why? Why is this a thing? But either way, so she really needs the money. August needs money because his winery is not doing so good. He needs some like money. He needs a startup loan. And so Natalie's like, you know, this could be good. Like you could be my, you know, pretend husband, even though really real husband. And I can get money from my startup company and you can get money, you can get a loan to, you know, revamp your winery. So they decide to go into a marriage. And oh my gosh, I loved it. 4 out of 5. It was steamy. If you know Tessa Bailey books, if you don't like steam, steer clear, because Tessa Bailey writes some steam, but I loved it. It was I loved their banter. I loved the relationship. I loved the hate to love aspect of it. In fact, also as well, usually with like the marriage of convenience, that's it. I was going to say like fake marriage, but it's marriage of convenience. They usually just go down to City Hall and like wham, bam, done. This one, they actually had a full-on wedding. And I was like, man, this is for reals. They're doing this marriage convenience. Like they had a full-on wedding. She had a wedding dress. They had a reception. They had Brick House playing, which is just hilarious because that's like one of my son's favorite songs, which is very odd. He loves it, so I was like, this is hilarious. And it was like a full-on wedding, which I was like, oh my gosh. And then you get to see them after they're married. Obviously, they're so clearly in love with each other. We all know, everybody knows but them, and it's just a fun book. I highly recommend it. So in case you are not the biggest fan of Secretly Yours, like myself, I think you would really enjoy this one. Definitely one of my favorite Tessa Bailey books I've read in a while, so I really liked it. Like I said, 4 out of 5. Moving on to one that I did not love so much, and that is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I'm sure you've heard of this author because she made a big splash with her debut novel last year called Every Summer After. I read it last year and I really enjoyed it, but as time goes on, I'm thinking I didn't love it because her books kind of have YA notion to them as well, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So this book I did not really like a lot. This one follows Fern, and at the beginning of the book, I think she's 35. her mother has just passed away. Her mother owns this like resort in Canada, like kind of think, they kind of compare it to the Dirty Dancing resort where you see in the movie where it's kind of like you go for a whole summer, you rent out a cabin. It's not just like a hotel. It's like a full on like resort where they have like a rec room. They have a restaurant in it. It's like its own like little community, if you will. And Fern has inherited this because her mother's passed away. And Fern has never really wanted to work or own this resort. She's always wanted to be in the city, like a Toronto or a Montreal gal, and that was her dream. Well, now she's back home and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. Like, does she want to sell this resort because it's not doing the best financially, or does she want to keep it and like have it in the family because it was her grandparents first? So we have that going on. Then we have enter in Will, who is a consultant. He comes to the resort and he's like, hey, I'm supposed to meet your mom. You know, I'm your consultant. And he doesn't know that her mom passed away, and he's a big important part of Fern's past because Will and Fern met 10 years ago, that's right, 10, and shared one day, that's right, one day together, and they promised each other at the end of that day, you know, we're gonna meet each other back at this resort in 1 year's time, and you know, we're gonna be together. And what do you know? We learned very early on that Will did not show up, that freaking jerk. And you know, now he's back 10 years later and he's the consultant for this resort. And Fern's like, crap, I have no choice but to really like work with you because this resort is not doing well. So the whole thing is about Fern trying to decide if she wants to run this resort or sell it. Also dealing with her feelings with Will. We get alternating timelines, which she does in her last book, where we have them meet 10 years ago and their, you know, amazing day, which it baffles me that they both have this really strong, clear feelings 10 years after. I can get if it was like a full-on relationship, things like that, you know, I understand that, but they shared one day together, one day 10 years ago. And they just, I'm like, that must have been the best freaking day of their lives. Like, I never experienced it, so I can't say, but I just had a hard time wrapping my head around that, you know, how much they clung on to this. And, you know, we learn why Will didn't show up the year after. And, you know, some of the reasons, it was just, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the chemistry between Will and Fern. I didn't get it. Like, even the flashback of 10 years before, I didn't feel it. Like, I just didn't. I was honestly rooting for the ex-boyfriend, which is something I never do. Her ex-boyfriend in this book is Jamie, who still works the resort and is the nicest guy ever. Like, he's chipper, he loves the resort, he wants to like live at the resort, his future is the resort, and he's such a nice guy. But him and Fern, you know, they dated for a while and they're still good friends, and he was just such a nice guy, and I really liked him, and I was rooting for Jamie, and I'm like, I never do that. I just didn't feel the chemistry was very palpable. Was that the right word? Between Fern and Will. I didn't enjoy this book a ton. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't it for me. I will tell you this, Carly Fortune knows how to write a setting. I wanted to go to this resort. I wanted to spend the whole summer there, meet all the guests. Like, I really enjoyed it. And another thing, I really wanted kind of the more inner workings of how they were deciding to revamp this resort. We talked about it a lot in this book where Will and Fern met and had all these ideas, but I never really got to see them fully in transition. I felt like, where's that part of the book? I want to see them actually turn this resort around and do things, and we never really got that, so I wasn't the biggest fan of that. So 3 out of 5. I don't know, Carly Fortune just, I guess, is iffy with me right now because I've read 2 of her books and they've both been kind of like, okay. Next up, we have The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. This is an author I've read a lot from. This is their newest release, and it's also kind of a sequel, much like Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey was. This one's the kind of sequel to The Soulmate Equation, and I would recommend reading that one first. In that book, we follow River and Jess, and the whole thing with Soulmate Equation is River kind of invented this technology called like DNA duo, or I don't know, I just really wanted to say Dino DNA from Jurassic Park when I say that, you know, Dino DNA.
Dino DNA.
But it's not that, it's like DNA duo or something like that. Either way, it helps you predict, like, send in a blood sample to figure out who your soulmate is. You get matches with somebody of like a base matching, a silver matching, a gold matching, like a platinum matching. And that whole book, it's about River and Jess who get like this ultimate amazing matching together, but that can't stand each other, but they fake date in order to help kind of like launch the company of the DNA thing. So we have that. This book follows the best friend of Jess in the first book, and her name is Fizzy, and she is a romance author. And in this book, at the very beginning, she is doing a commencement speech at a university, and she's, you know, talking about romance and the one, and then she finally realizes, you know, she's never been fully like in love, like head over heels, like can't stop thinking about it, can't stop dreaming about love. And she's like, crap, am I never gonna be in love? And with that, she has a big writing slump, and you know, she's a big time romance author, so people are constantly asking her when is her next book, and she's like, I don't know what to say. Then we have another character named Connor, who is a documentary filmmaker. He works for this company that makes kind of like nature documentaries, and his boss comes to him and he's like, yeah, we're taking this company, we're totally flipping it out. We're not gonna do nature stuff anymore. We're gonna do reality television, which is just like, what? And they're like, you know what? You're in charge. You're going to do a dating show. Better make this work or your job depends on it. And he's a single dad. So he's like, crap, you know, I cannot like not have a job because I'm a single dad. And, you know, he has a good relationship with his ex-wife, the mother of his child, but things, you know, he needs this. So he decides, you know, one night he learns about Fizzy and he's like, she would make the great like character for our dating show. And so he approaches her, and basically, it's a dating show where Fizzy is like kind of the bachelorette, if you will, and there's different archetypes. She gave Connor kind of an archetype list, and there has to be like a vampire, a hot dad, a hot nerd, a cowboy, you know, things like that you see a lot of in romance novels. And basically each week, the people that are viewing get to vote off who they don't think she has good chemistry with, and at the end you get to see who the audience chose, and then you also get to see the DNA results, the DNA duo type of thing, whether she was compatible with that person that they chose. So it's like going to be, is America right, or is like the science right? And it's kind of that whole thing. It was really good. I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I will say that. But it doesn't really talk about the dating show that much. If you're looking for a book that you're like, I love reality dating, I want to know the behind the scenes stuff, this one doesn't go much into it. It's more about Fizzy and Connor, how they immediately have attraction from the very first get-go and want to be together, but he's the producer, she's the star, so that's a big no, no, no. And so the whole book, they're fighting it when you clearly know that they don't need to. That's what the whole book is about. The reality dating thing is just kind of a blip on the radar. It's not really crucial to the plot whatsoever. It's more about Fizzy and Connor, which I did enjoy. They had great chemistry. The whole will they, won't they. I'm like, you're both grown adults. You don't really need to, you know, stuff like that. But I did like it. I did like it a smidge more than the soulmate equation. And the one thing I didn't love is the fact that we did have a lot of Jess and River in this book. More so Jess, because that makes sense. Fizzy and Jess are best friends. But they just use River as a total prop. Like, you know, Fizzy is very brash and bold in what she says, so she would just be talking to Jess and she would say something very kind of borderline, you know, really sexual, things like that, and it would always be where River would walk in right at the moment and he would just turn around, and that would be his cameo for the next 100 pages, and I'm just like, he talked a lot in the first book, like, well, why are we using him as a prop in this book? But that's just me. It's not a big thing. But I did like it. If you like a good kind of will they, won't they, you know, kind of forbidden love type of thing, I would recommend it. The last book, The Daydreams by Laura Hankin. I was really excited for this book. It was on my most anticipated releases of the year. It was on my 5-star predictions. So it's a bummer to me that I did not enjoy this book. Really not so much at all. Let me tell you about it before I tell you my rating and stuff. So this book, we follow a main character named Kat, and this book has a lot of different timelines going on, but we first start off with Kat now, and she is a lawyer. She's doing great. She has an amazing boyfriend, and then she sees a interview from one of her co-stars that wants to revamp a show that she was in when she was a teenager called The Daydreams. So like 15 years ago, when she was like 18, 17, she was in this show called The Daydreams. Kind of picture Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, you know, those kids shows like Zoe 101, Lizzie McGuire, you know, you get what I'm saying. And The Daydreams basically comprised of 4 characters. We had Summer, Noah, Kat, and Lena. And they were the Daydreams. It was kind of like a Glee show, if you will, too, where they would just be, it's kind of like a musical comedy. They would sing a lot and they would dance and always be very family friendly and things like that. They had one amazing season, then they had 2 amazing seasons, and then they had a live finale for the season 2, and it went to crap. Like, it went horribly. Everybody split up. Nobody's talked to each other since then. So when Noah decides, you know, like, hey, I'm open for a Daydreams reunion, it blows things off the water. Kat is wanting nothing to do with it because she has separated herself so much from that character in that time of her life. But somehow she gets roped into doing a whole nother live show for the Daydreams 15 years later. So she is paired up with all of her co-stars that she has not talked to in 15 years, and Kat is known as the bee in the show. There was like Summer and Noah, who were like the golden couple that were amazing. Oh, will they, won't they get together? Then you had Kat, was the bee that was always trying to meddle things. Lena, who was just kind of another side character, just there to just be there, if you will. So the whole book is about the reunion, but also going back in time of when they first got cast, of when they had to go through the show, of the whole thing with Summer. Like, that's, ugh. If it sounds confusing, because it is. Like, this book goes on in a lot of different ways. This book really does not need to be told from Kat's point of view. It is Summer's book. Summer was the main star of the Daydreams, and she's the one that had the biggest fall. Like, she kind of had a Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes, you know, Miley Cyrus type of thing, where she was deemed like the golden star of the network, the picture perfect, couldn't do any wrong. She had to hold this image up, and then she really fell from grace. You know, she kind of went into partying, boys, all those things. Like, a lot of child stars can happen because they have so much pressure on them. And it should have been Summer's book, because we don't talk more about her kind of fall. She gets a little soliloquy. I think it's called Summer's soliloquy. Soliloquy, you know that word. But it needed to be from Summer's point of view. I didn't think it really added anything to the book to have it from Kat's point of view. And another thing is, I didn't really like any of the characters. You didn't really get to know them. You got to only see them surface value. I wanted to go in deeper. They all betrayed each other, by the way, which was just horrible. And it just, I don't know. I just didn't love it. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It just felt clunky. That's the main word I could describe this book. It was clunky. It switched from like different timelines, from going to now, from going to season 1, to having, you know, different random points of views from other characters. And it just, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you want to take a deep dive into what it could be like to be like a child star, like on a very popular show on Disney or Nickelodeon, where the producers and the network put so much like rules and regulations on you that you just feel smothered as a child actor, like, check it out, because they do well in that regard, because they are horrible. Like, I don't know, oh gosh, shows should not, like, I don't know why they do that to child actors. I really don't. I'll never understand it. But it just, I wanted it to be so much more. I think going into this book, I was comparing it a lot to Daisy Jones and the Six. I was hoping it would be on that level, and it really wasn't anywhere like that. So I don't know. I give it a 2 out of 5. Now, take my review with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of 5-star reviews on Goodreads for this book. So a lot of people loved it, which great. I do think it shares the message of, like, you know, child stars and how they're children, and we need to treat them as like, you know what I'm saying? Like don't put all this pressure and expect them to be like flawless, because nobody is, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. I could talk about this for a while, but I wanted it to be more, and it just wasn't for me. So a 2 out of 5, sad to say. So there you have my thoughts and opinions on those 4 books. Overall, pretty good. I would say my 2 favorite for sure are these 2 right here. I really like them a ton. Would recommend them. The other 2, probably take or leave. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the books I talked about today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.